thegreen.com.
Welcome to Shitcoin TV, everyone. So today, as promised, we have a special guest. We have JMO with us, also known as Cunty Cakes 123 on Twitter, which is an amazing handle. But yeah, if you don't follow JMO, you definitely should request access, and his account's unlocked, but you should definitely request access.
Yeah, request access.
There's some good alpha in there. You know, I feel like, JMO, every time if I ever ask you about any token or ecosystem or anything, you seem to usually know like infinite amounts about it. That seems to be the running theme.
I wouldn't say infinite amounts, but yeah, I spend a lot of time on the internet reading about like every single garbage token that gets released. So
And I guess this is what happens when you, I mean, a long time ago, I used to play poker. So I guess when you go from having a job that literally takes 16 hours a day to retiring. So if you just dabble around with something, you're just cruising at like 12 hours a day of DeFi.
Yeah. I played poker professionally for like probably 10 years. And mostly it was online poker, so that amounted to sitting at the computer all day. And after I retired, I had a lot of computer time left over for other activities. So yeah.
Nice. So in terms of kicking this off, it depends how far back you want to go. Andreas just mentioned Ether Delta, which I remember that with the Spank Chain stuff. I do remember using that, buying in some big sell wall on there. But
yeah,
I mean, can you tell us more about that? I mean, most people that are watching this probably won't have any idea.
I don't have any idea. I'm a newbie, so
yeah, like Ether Delta followed by, I believe it was like Fork Delta, which is like a copy of Ether Delta with slightly better user interface, and IDEX was their predecessor, or I think IDEX came after it. But it was essentially the first decentralized exchange on Ethereum, and it wasn't the standard right now is AMM, automated market makers, where this was just like a full order book. So you could put in limit orders, and they would stay up indefinitely until you took them down, and they would fill or not fill. However, the user interface was really terrible. Like it was basically impossible to use. They also don't have a, I think I'm remembering this correctly, but they don't have a market buy or market sell function. So for example, if you place a spot limit order that like deviates from the actual spot price, it's not like you'll get filled based on the amount in the order book. You'll get filled at the price that you put it in. So that's pretty detrimental if you fat finger or something and add a zero or something. It means that you paid 10x the amount for your buy, or you get 10x less for your sell, rather than just eating through the market order book.
Oh shit!
What year was this?
Yeah, I want to say like 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. It started up probably around 2017. Now that I'm thinking about it, because the biggest use case for it was, I think during end of 2016, throughout 2017, there was a whole ICO craze that was going on, where people would just raise money, issue tokens, and release these tokens on Ethereum. And it was, at the time, it was difficult to get exchange listings without bribing the exchanges quite a bit. So people needed exit liquidity for their shitcoins. So they came up with a decentralized exchange to dump their coins on. So I think that was like the main use case for it for quite some time.
Like a bunch of promises that would never.
It would be interesting to go back and look at the highest volume coins on Ether Delta like 5 years ago and see where they're all at now. I imagine like a large majority of them are worthless or very near worthless right now.
Yeah, I mean coins never die, but I think you can say that when the volume is zero, then the price is zero after a while, right?
Yeah. That's reasonable.
What were your first thoughts on DeFi, JMO, when it started? Like, was it something revolutionary for you, or?
I wouldn't say it's revolutionary, but it was very, very profitable at inception. Especially, it sort of rewards people for having just staying liquid and having like a large bankroll or a large number of assets to toy around with, because basically the rich get richer. The more capital you have, the more you could have made initially in DeFi, and yeah, like at the beginning, there was, I think, like Yams was the first one. You provided LP on Uniswap. They paid you this Yam token, and then it evolved to like Sushi Swap. Uniswap had a token as well, and then like this whole cross-chain bridge thing. I think Binance Smart Chain was probably the first one that gained like huge traction, just because it was supported by Binance. Like all the tokens were integrated directly into the Binance UI, so you can deposit, withdraw to Binance Smart Chain from the exchange. And they incentivized a lot of projects to use BSC, and also at the time, Ethereum fees were rising, and the average transaction, even if it's like a few dollars or $10, it sort of prices out quite a bit of people who don't have that amount of money to make a single transaction with, where the Binance Smart Chain, you could make the same transactions for like a few pennies.
Yeah, and when BSC was really popular for, I mean, a new generation of ICOs and NFT sales on their like Launchpad thing, where I'm sure they made sure that everything was on BSC.
Yeah.
And at that same time, I was doing a lot of testing on Ethereum, just like automating transactions. And I think I was paying like $50 almost to send a token. So on Ethereum, so that would have priced out pretty much everyone.
You basically, at one point on Ethereum, like if you want to participate in DeFi, because DeFi is very gas intensive on Ethereum. It's not just like sending Ethereum back and forth. You have a bunch of like smart contract interactions where sometimes it takes multiple transactions, 3, 4, 5 transactions to do what you want to do, like have the approval, make a deposit, provide liquidity. Every time you harvest your yams or whatever token they're giving out, it'll also be a separate transaction as well. And then you need to do something with your harvest, either sell or hold or stake or whatever Ponzi-nomics they have going, and that requires another transaction as well. So yeah, like even if it's only like a few dollars of transactions, you're putting in quite a few transactions just to do like a few things basically. So yeah, no, I think that's like the biggest. That was like the biggest precursor to why there's so many different chains now attempting to compete with Ethereum, and that there's a bunch of cross-chain bridges. You can basically transfer any asset from one chain to any other chain directly now, given how many like third-party bridges and actual on-chain bridges are being deployed right now.
Yeah, in terms of because I know you got very deep into, was it Krabada on Avalanche, right?
Krabada,
yeah. So, because how do you think Avalanche is faring up these days? Are you bullish on Avalanche, or?
I'm bullish on the chain in terms of like it acquiring more users, just because it seems to be designed like quite well. It operates very nicely. The whole subnet system, where there are projects like Krabada is a good example. They now have their own subnet on Avalanche. And what was the other play to earn project? Jewel. DeFi Kingdoms was originally on, I believe, Harmony, which is like a complete garbage blockchain. I don't know why they decided to launch. I think like recently, basically every dollar got stolen off of the Harmony bridge, but people are still like making transactions on Harmony, pretending that like their money is worth something right now, which is pretty funny. But I think Jewel, which is the other really big play to earn DeFi-esque game, has their own subnet or will have their own subnet on Avalanche. So like the way it's designed, it's really inviting for projects that require like a large amount of transactions, whether it's like transactions through tokens or transactions through NFTs to use Avalanche over like Ethereum or Polygon, or I don't know what else is out there that's that competitive.
You use it quite a lot for testing, right?
Avalanche, yeah, because it is really, really stable. So of all the chains I have to deal with every day, I mean, it's like Ethereum, BSC, Polygon, down to ZK. Did I say BSC?
All the
Optimism, Arbitrum,
all the Ethereum layer 2.
Yeah, there's so many, but of all of them, Avalanche is the most stable. The Optimism is fine, but I think it's because no one is using it. But as soon as Polygon had some usage, it also started falling down very badly.
The same thing happened to like Phantom
and BSC
and BSC and I mean,
Arbitrum
like
had the same problem, right?
Yeah, Arbitrum had the same problem. I mean, they all still have the problem right now. I think it's not really that like volume surges so that fees go up. It's that like the base fee right now is still not really competitive with something like Avalanche or Solana. Like you're still paying upwards of like $1 per transaction when Ethereum layer 1 fee. I think right now the Ethereum layer 1 fees are like a 2-year low or something. It's the past month, but if that ever spikes, then the like the layer 2 fees still won't be competitive with like the alternate layer 1s that we have right now. So I'm pretty bullish on Avalanche as a chain. I'm not so sure about token price. I know I haven't looked at the tokenomics recently, but I know that there was like decent vesting cliffs that were going to be released, and there's like a bunch of treasuries that have Avalanche, like quite a bit of Avalanche in it that's locked. So
because they made token swaps.
Token swaps, or they integrated something within Avalanche. Like for example, if you look at the Luna treasury, the only thing left in the Luna treasury is a bunch of Avalanche because it's the only thing locked, and then they sold everything. So I'm pretty sure other projects have similar token swaps or similar amounts in the treasury that may lead to downward sell pressure. I think it's the same with Solana too, right? There's like a lot of Solana that has vesting cliffs that are released within the next year or the next 2 years. Like, what is that one podcast? The All In podcast with like Chamath, Stacks, Jake Hal. There's a clip of them just like joking around with each other and how they're gonna like dump their Solana bags when they get unlocked on each other. So it's tough to be bullish on something when like events like that might happen.
Yeah,
that's I guess Kobe on his podcast talked about this as well, which is he just looks at this like FDV, like the fully diluted. And if you look at that at the coins, everything on Solana and AVAX, the token, you're just like, you're going to get really, really, really diluted over the next 2 years. So I guess you might as well just not bother, because I guess you have to assume that there's a lot of people holding it or buying it that do not know about this, and just providing this constant stream of exit liquidity as the price goes down.
Yeah, so that is true.
When 3AC, they were big early backers of Avalanche, right? So I'm guessing surely they've got something about to be released as well. I'm sure that'll get liquidated pretty quick.
Yeah, I think Suzu still has that the Avalanche symbol in his Twitter name, right? The little triangle.
Thank God.
So, he also had like the Luna Moon in his Twitter profile, but he has since erased that. That's gone.
We spoke about this the other day as well, but I'd love to get your thoughts. How with all these lenders, I saw Celsius came out and said they're filing for bankruptcy yesterday, I think it was. But what's your take on how they've handled all of these DeFi investments that they've had? Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this goes into like the latter, because if you look at the DeFi summer, right, it started off it seems like it started off with mostly normal people. And then I guess, the kind of more clever hedge funds like our friend at Galois Capital, these kind of guys would pile on because there's a lot of kids working there. They can do this.
Yeah.
But at some point, the money's just too good. So what can we call this phase? Like the boomer phase of DeFi summer, where I think people just realize that people will buy literally anything if it says yield. So you get increasingly big institutions just giving money to you, and you pay them 50%. You put everything into Anchor, you get 20. Sick, leverage up.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because basically the biggest DeFi wallet, people thought it was an individual or an entity for a while. They made their own Twitter account. I think it's like the 0xB1 something account. But it turns out that was just the Celsius wallet of like, if you deposit money into Celsius, they would send your money to that wallet and they would gamble with it. So like I'd say like maybe a year and a half ago was the peak time for DeFi. Like the gains were the best, mainly because DeFi is inherently token driven, as in basically there's not enough volume for on any chain for you to provide a LP and make like a huge amount just from transaction fees, because like the transaction fees are low, and in general the protocol will take their cut as well. So the way all this stuff is incentivized is each protocol has their own native token and they just give it away, and the native token has value in some way. Like maybe they structure it in a way like Sushi Swap, where the Sushi token gets a percentage of the protocol fees. An example, Uniswap, it literally doesn't do anything. I guess you can vote on a few things, but it still has like hundreds of $1 million, maybe even $1 billion. I haven't checked a market cap right now.
So it's more like Amazon. You're just hoping that sometimes in the future they will pay dividends.
Yeah, exactly. You're not buying for the present, you're buying for the future. And the other interesting thing they introduced to basically scam people to get exit liquidity is that they introduced something called pool twos, which are essentially pairing like the garbage token that the protocol gives out with like a real asset and putting it in a liquidity pool, so people that need exit liquidity know exactly where to go for exit liquidity. And they sort of disguise that by incentivizing those pools even more than like the normal asset pools. By if you stick your real money in our token in this pool, we'll pay you like 150% a year, 200% a year, 500% a year, 1,000% a year. And like to the average person that looks at this and doesn't understand the risk of impermanent loss, that doesn't realize that like there's hundreds of people on the other side of the trade that's just are using you providing liquidity into this pool as exit liquidity to get out of their the DeFi token positions. You might think it's like a profitable position to have and hold it until like the LP is worth next to nothing, which seems to have happened to like quite a few people.
And it's because you're putting the shitcoin. You have to hold the shitcoin. You put it into the pool together with like your USDC.
Yeah,
and then you get a lot more of the shitcoin, but you get less of your USDC.
Yes, most of the time that's what happens. I guess I'd explain like how an automated market maker works. So basically, on a normal exchange, you would set like limit orders. There'd be an order book. If you want to buy or sell something at a certain price, you can just list that price. And then if it fills, it fills. It doesn't fill. It doesn't fill. On an automated market maker, and there are a few that you can do limit orders and stuff like that. But generally, you get quoted a price and you pay that price at the time. And the way liquidity providing works is whenever you enter a pool, you enter 50% of both assets. So like an example is like Ethereum USDC. So you'd put like If you wanted to put $2,000 in, you put $1,000 worth of Ethereum at the time and $1,000 worth of USDC, and you would represent some percentage of the overall pool. The issue is if one asset fluctuates heavily versus the other asset, you end up with a lot more of the less valuable asset and a lot less of the more valuable asset, which leads to a thing called impermanent loss, which basically means that the total value of your position will go down over time the more impermanent loss you suffer. So in the example of like these pool twos where you're pairing, let's say, USDC with like the governance token of like the 8th Uniswap fork of the day, without a doubt, when you enter that pool, it may pay out decent rewards, but the amount of the governance token in that pool is going to increase heavily, and the amount of USDC is going to decrease heavily because there are far more people that are providing liquidity in other pools, generating these tokens, needing extra liquidity to convert these tokens back to USDC, than there are people buying up these governance tokens because, I don't know, they like them or they want to hold them.
How would you solve the impermanent loss problem? Like,
Is it even solvable?
I think it is, but if JMO has
I don't think it's necessarily a problem. Like I think like the risks are pretty obvious given anyone. I think anyone with half a brain that understands how an automated market maker works understands the risks involved in it. Like the thing with DeFi, at the beginning, it seemed like it was just free money, right? Like you put money in, your money would double every like few weeks or something. But obviously that model is not sustainable. Like as more people get in, like not everyone can just print free money. And like the collapse of stuff like Luna, all the centralized Celsius, BlockFi, which are essentially people that taking your money if you don't know how to interact with DeFi, and they sort of do it for you. Those fell apart quite rapidly, just because like for a while these games were unsustainable, and then when stuff gets back to a more reasonable, sustainable level, like a lot of these entities or a lot of these protocols can't really function at that point. So I don't think it's really a problem that there isn't permanent loss, because like in order to capture any upside, you need to have some risk of downside, right? It's not going to be like there are going to be very few protocols where you put your assets in, you get exactly the same assets back whenever you withdraw, plus you make a ton of money. I mean, in theory that'd be awesome, right? But that's not exactly how. That's not exactly how stuff works.
So I guess that brings us to the part, the alpha part here, because with all these Ponzinomics, I mean, the platforms are going to make money for sure. It's great to be the person running SushiSwap or anything like that. And there's going to be a lot of people on retail, which is called stupid, losing money on this because they're like LPing on the two pool or anything, or just eating a lot of IL in some other weird way. So then we come to what your job is, because not job, it's your hobby, but still, which is whenever this exists, then you could go on. What's an example of a really shitty pool site? Orca?
Pool site.
Orca.
Yeah.
Oh, should I not diss Orca?
No, I like Orca.
Yeah. Okay. So then somebody can go on Trader Joe,
Okay.
or anywhere, someone like you, and you can enter a pool on a new DEX that you hope is not going to rug, and you put into the pool that is USDT, USDC at 50-50, and it will just straight up stay at this balance more or less, right? And in return, you're getting paid in the token of the DEX. So as long as you don't get rugged, you can just dump on this two pool, right? all day.
Yeah, in theory, that's sort of like already played out though. There are quite a few protocols that do that. Curve Finance is probably the biggest one. Like a lot of their pools are just. I think their biggest pool is something called 3Pool, which is USDT, USDC, and DAI. And then they have like a bunch of other pools that are like what they call 3Pool plus another stable coin that's supposed to be pegged at $1. So it's like 3Pool in MIM or 3Pool in UST, which obviously people got kind of fucked in that pool. But I feel like that model's like played out quite a bit, and because there's quite a few of those like stable exchange pools, they're like what they're doing to be competitive with each other is lowering the fees. So if the fees for swapping stables are instead of like I think the standard is like a 0.3, but I think Uniswap now offers a 0.051, which gets the highest amount of volume, obviously. So it sort of just becomes like a race to the bottom, right? Like who can offer the best product to get the most liquidity, but then like the best product would be best for the actual swapper, the user of the platform, and worse for the platform itself and the liquidity providers, because it's zero sum, right? The fees that are paid go directly to the LPs and to the protocol or to the protocol token. So if you want to be competitive with any of these major dexes, you sort of need to offer something unique, like a better fee structure or like less slippage. And if you do that, then the LP, the APY of the LP, basically the amount you're making every year, every month, or however long you hold the LP, it gets reduced.
So it's a race to the bottom on that, and then I guess what they're all having to do is try to innovate on how the exchange, how the AMM itself works, to be better to the traders and to the users and to the LPs, because like once you're at the bottom, you cannot start a new DEX, so you need to either actually innovate, like make a better thing, or Ponzinomics, which I guess does that bring us to Convex?
Okay, Convex. Yeah, sure, we can talk
and Curve.
about
Can you just explain this? Like, if all I knew was Uniswap, where there's a token and it doesn't do anything, how did we get from there to like the Curve wars hysteria and these crazy token valuations and all that?
Well, the whole Curve wars, Convex wars, whatever you want to call them, it basically originated from the structure of how these tokens work. So you can, both these platforms have multiple pools, right? Like a bunch of stablecoin pools. The biggest crypto pool on Curve is something called TriCrypto, which is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I think USDT on Ethereum. And then like some of the other TriCryptos have their own basket of stablecoins to go with the Bitcoin and Ethereum. But it's always like 1/3 Bitcoin, 1/3 Ethereum, 1/3 stablecoin. And then they have stuff like WBTC, RenBTC, which are two different types of wrapped Bitcoin, but essentially they're supposed to be the same asset. And then ETH, ST-ETH, which is the Lido beacon chain token versus like the normal liquid ETH. So in order to incentivize people to not sell their tokens and to add value to the native tokens, they offer something called vote locking, which means if you agree to lock your tokens in the platform within or for a certain duration, you're able to participate in a governance function, which sort of delegates rewards to certain pools. So, for example, if you're LPing in, like an example is if you hold a bunch of Frax, which is like a semi-algorithmic stablecoin that's like mostly backed but partially not backed. You hold a lot of Frax and you want to maintain your gains on Frax. instead of saying like selling your Curve or your Convex tokens, you might want to lock your tokens into the platforms and upvote the rewards on the pool, the Frax pool that you're in, because there's a Frax versus the 3 pool. That's I think it's like one of the biggest, if not the biggest one, on Convex right now. So then it incentivizes people to hold tokens within the platform, which sort of reduces the circulating supply because you can't sell the tokens that you generate through DeFi here. And then there are people that are participating. The whole war thing is that, for example, if I have a new and revolutionary stablecoin that I want to add to Curve, but it currently gets no Curve rewards, instead of just buying up people's Curve, which is expensive, and now I'm holding a bag of Curve, there's a whole bribe system where you can essentially pay a bribe to the people that already have their tokens vote locked. So for example, if I'm farming like this Frax pool, I put in a bunch of Frax, I keep my Curve, I keep my comebacks, I vote lock it, and I vote up the Frax pool every time. And then like this new player on the block is like, hey, I see you have a lot of these locked tokens, so why don't you vote for our pool, and we can pay you something. So there's that sort of intrinsically adds value to the token, that there's like it's revenue generating asset, right? If you're holding locked version and people are willing to pay for your governance votes, which I think rarely happens on DEXs now. Like most tokens that participate in governance, like the governance is kind of bullshit, and you don't really care about what they're voting on, stuff like that. But in these protocols specifically, it basically tells you, the governance tells you how much of the inflation or the supply that gets distributed among these pools, how it's split between one pool versus another. So there's huge demand for both Curve and Convex votes right now, which is what the whole war is about, I guess.
And is it still ongoing?
Yeah, it's to a lesser degree now. Some of the big players kind of fell out. Like I think UST was the big one. Well, I don't know how much they're bribing for. I know they had like a Convex position, but so the UST thing was a bit bad because the UST or Luna was paying. I don't know if I'm wrong, or I think it's like something like $3 to $4 million a month in bribes in order to incentivize like all the pools that had UST. So like after that whole collapse, and now like UST is worth zero, like the bribe market, I feel like, has died out a bit. I haven't really checked because I haven't really been messing with Convex recently. I like exited my Convex position maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, so I'm not participating in the bribes now. So I haven't been able to see like the actual return on bribes currently.
I guess.
So you was,
No, go on, Nick.
you go ahead. Okay.
Okay.
So you were speaking about the UST and the Algo stablecoins. Do you think they can make a comeback, or have you lost complete faith in Algo stablecoins?
That's a good question. It depends on what kind of algorithmic stablecoin, because they're not all the same, and some of them that like are considered algorithmic aren't necessarily algorithmic. It's just like I think people use the term algorithmic stablecoin too loosely, just to describe any coin that's not like backed 1-to-1 by like a vault full of dollars or whatever, like USDT, USDC. There are a lot of stable coins like well, let me think if I can think of any from the top. Like, so I talked about Frax, which is like a partially algorithm but mostly backed stable coin, and then there's stuff like MIM, Magic Internet Money,
Rye.
Yeah, the Rye thing.
Rye.
That's pretty out there.
But there are a lot that aren't necessarily backed by anything, but in order to mint it, you need to deposit collateral. and generally your collateral is some other cryptocurrency. So like for the example of MIM, you can deposit, I think like Bitcoin, you can deposit Ethereum. On Avalanche, you can deposit AVAX. And then the interesting thing about them is you can also deposit Curve LP, so just like the straight LP token, in order to print more of their dollar. So it sort of compounds like your gains, because you can either LP on Curve and then deposit the LP onto Convex and you get rewards, or you can take the same LP, put it onto, I think the site is called Abracadabra, and then you get the same rewards that you would on Convex, but you can also use that for collateral and borrow against it. And I guess you wouldn't really call it borrowing, because you're basically generating dollars out of thin air, backed by the collateral that you deposit. So there's only one asset you can derive from it, which is magic internet money, and then there's like a Curve pool that you can deposit on Convex, which is the MIM tokens plus the standard 3 pool for Curve. So it's sort of like compounds your earnings in a way. So I think stuff like, yeah, go ahead.
The MIM pool, I read a bit about that. That's just like one dude, because the MIM was losing the peg, and you just see like the Discord chat. This one dude is like, no, we're not losing the peg. It's like, I'm not on my computer right now, so I don't have the 2FA to my Binance account, but everyone just chilled. And I remember asking someone, maybe it was you, JMO. I'm like, is this real? And they're like, yeah, like, don't short this. Is going to regain the peg. He literally just needs to log on to Binance. And we got back to $1. So, I mean, it seems a little centralized, but I'm against.
So like, I think there's some risk in the protocol, only that the protocol can generate bad debt, and that's true for essentially any lending protocol. Even if something is collateralized, when you deposit collateral and take out the loan, and they have like a reasonable liquidation threshold, there sometimes isn't enough on-chain liquidity, depending on like the size of your position, in order to regain the capital in a liquidation event, which leads to bad debt on the platform. It's just like a simple example of this is like, we can talk about our buddy Roger Ver and his the whole CoinFlex fiasco.
We can talk about that.
I think that situation is similar, right? Because basically, this is all hearsay. I don't know if this is exactly what happened, but he went into long Bitcoin Cash, and he likely deposited Bitcoin Cash in order to borrow US dollars to put in a gigantic long position on Bitcoin Cash. The problem with this is his position must have been like 80-90% of the open interest on this platform, right? So then when the asset goes down that you're longing, and your collateral is in this asset, then there comes a point where there's so much of this asset you need to sell in order to liquidate to cover the position, and there might not be any liquidity in the book if you're 90% of the open interest. So then, like if this happens on a protocol, like the protocol will have a huge negative position in bad debt, which risks like the stability of these. It's a quasi-algorithmic stablecoins. That they're not really algorithmic. They're just generated out of collateral. But if the collateral goes bad, or if the collateral doesn't cover the outstanding debt, then the protocol's in the negative, and that risks the stablecoin falling off peg, because the assets backing the stablecoin are less than the value of the stablecoin.
So you believe that an over collateralization could be a solution for this?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you believe that an over collateralization would be a solution for this?
Yeah, over collateralization is good. I think most of the protocols already require a decent amount of over collateralization. The other thing that I think some of these protocols implement is that they limit the position size depending on the amount of liquidity in the book. So like the example of what was the protocol? Solend, which was a protocol on Solana. They got a bunch of heat for essentially. There was someone, I believe, they're depositing Solana and borrowing USDC on the platform, and they must have had like 70 or 80% of the pool, and they had a certain liquidation price, but the liquidation price is how would I describe it? Like the liquidation price is just a number. It doesn't mean that like that they'll be able to sell that amount of Solana at that price to recover all the USDC. And I think it was like something around like 4 or 5% of the entire float of Solana, like all the coins in circulation. So like the protocol owners were looking at this and they're like, yeah, like our protocol is completely fucked if Solana goes below, I think it was like $25 or $30, because we can't recover any of this bad debt. There's no way, like, because like all these protocols are automated, right? So basically what would happen is like if the liquidation thresholds hits, they would start selling on like Serum or whatever DEX is on Solana that has the Radium, whatever DEX has most liquidity. But if they need to liquidate like 4% of the entire supply of Solana on DEX only, that would lead to like sort of catastrophic things, right? The other thing is all this stuff is on chain, right? So people providing liquidity, like the big LP providers providing, let's say, Solana USDC liquidity, can see this liquidation coming, right? They see this open position and exactly what price there's going to be like a $100-200 million Solana sell, so that they can adjust their LP positions accordingly, which even further reduces the amount of liquidity in the books and makes the liquidation event even worse. So then like
you get, sorry, and then I guess you get a lot of the short when they're dropping loads of shorts and trying to liquidation hunt, right? I guess you get more of that.
Yeah. You have people treading on train in order to liquidation hunt people, especially when they. I guess that's a little bit of the downside of DeFi, is that there's so many ways for you to get cunted, whether it's like MEV bots or stuff like this. Like if you have a position on any of these exchange or on any of these DEXs, the exact price that you start getting liquidated is public knowledge to everyone, because they can see the amount of collateral you have, they can see your borrow amount. So it's just like a math calculation as to when these positions get liquidated. And then if you have an especially big position, it just means that the liquidation would have huge impact on the actual price. Go ahead. Yeah.
Do you think this happened on the CoinFlex BCH long, or do you think it was just like the timing it just happened by itself? Because the BCH to BTC correlation is still trending down, but not dramatically.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like someone was trying to, because there's a lot of people like BTC maxis who would love to just kill Bitcoin Cash for once and all, but maybe they don't actually have that much money.
Yeah. I also am not sure if Roger's position was public, right? He might have. I mean, he might have had like a large percentage of the open interest on the exchange, but it might have been through like multiple positions where it's not obvious that it's like one person with a massive position at like one exact liquidation price. But I think what happened was that the CoinFlex risk management, like their internal risk management, was just sort of poor in this case. Where, like, I think Roger had a certain liquidation price, but it probably should have been a lot higher given the the size of the position. Like you can't like you can't adjust all liquidation prices based on like the amount of collateral. And let's say you need to be like 15% over, or you start liquidating. It doesn't really work that way, because a small position will have like no impact on the book, or a big position will completely destroy the book. So there needs to be some sort of like calculation, some sort of like risk management to start slowly liquidating these positions well before like the intended liquidation price. And like exactly what happened with them was like for first they announced like the whole was only 47 million, and then like the other day it nearly doubled, right? It got up to like I think 87 million. But the $40 million difference or whatever was basically just the cost of liquidation, right? They had to liquidate all this collateral, and it probably drove the market down, or that they couldn't get like the spot market price for that size of a liquidation. So then somehow it led to nearly doubling like the debt on the platform.
So I guess we'll finish this off with, I guess, to get a couple of maybe a prediction out of you. I know like who knows what's going to happen, but in terms of it seems like we're very much in a bear market now. How long do you see this going on for? And then also, how do you think DeFi in particular comes out of this?
Yeah, and what is, we had like a we had Solana summer, DeFi summer.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was like some very odd NFT season that I think most of us didn't care about, and then we ended up with this massive anchor-led, Luna-led Ponzi.
Yeah.
And I guess now we're in the bear market following that.
Default summer.
But default summer, yes. But
default summer.
So yeah, how long do you think we're in this? And when we get out, what do you think we're gonna see? Like, can we even revive some of these memes like earn to play, or is it just gonna be totally new stuff on new chains? Like, who's gonna survive all this?
Yeah, I actually have a bunch of thoughts on this. So like a lot of what drove the bull market is stuff that just didn't seem sustainable. Like I hire someone off Fiverr to make an NFT collection, and I set them in at 1 Ethereum, and as long as I have good marketing, like it works out, and I'm able to raise like hundreds of thousands of dollars to selling pictures on the internet. So like I think stuff like that isn't sustainable. A lot of the play to earn stuff wasn't sustainable just because of the whole Ponzi-nomics of their token. Like people were playing it as a job rather than like organically growing the game through like participation and like enjoyment. So I think with regard to that, like the next bull run, maybe they'll actually develop some games that will be fun to play, will draw people that are sort of outside crypto that want to participate due to self-pleasure, self-enjoyment, rather than seeing it as like a job where you like wake up, sit on your computer, click a few buttons, and make as much money as possible. I'm still pretty bearish on quite a few of these coins that are still out. Like an example is I think Celsius, which just filed for bankruptcy, right? They have like a $2 billion hole in their books. Their coin is still like $400 million market cap, and it doesn't do anything. Like I think like the extent of the utility of the Celsius token is you get more rewards on the Celsius platform where all your money is gone already and you can't withdraw. So I don't understand how these tokens are still worth that much. I'm pretty bullish on the DeFi protocols, given that they were the ones that survived all this, like stuff like Compound, Aave, Curve, even stuff like Trader Joe, like all these indexes that they worked as intended during these fluctuations in prices of coins, even though that they would list quite a few coins that may like be worthless in a few months, in a year. Anything like the actual DEXs are working as intended, that they're not generating bad debt, that they really haven't had too many issues, given the volatility of some of these coins. So I'm pretty bullish on that. I'd say that there's a chance that like if we were to get out of this bull or this bear market, the whole Ethereum like layer 2 season thing seems to be kind of canceled right now. A lot of the Ethereum bulls were basically banking on two things: one, all these layer 2s being released, and then releasing a token, and then huge adoption. Everyone's using like these layer 2s, and the way layer 2s work is that they essentially pay rent to use the security and the settlement layer of Ethereum layer 1. So then if you're an Ethereum X, you'd say, well, this is bullish for Ethereum because there's going to be so many people that want to rent block space on our chain. But if you look at the launch of stuff like the Optimism token, essentially like they had a one-day volume spike where everyone bridged Ethereum to Optimism in order to claim their Optimism token, sell their Optimism token, and bridge back to Ethereum layer 1. And then I still saw stuff on Twitter that day that was like, oh, this is so bullish for layer 2s. Look at this volume spike. Like, oh my God, look how many people are using Optimism. So I think that's that season is canceled. I don't see any of the like the Ethereum, the layer 2s. I believe are all like quite overvalued already. If you look at like the valuations they raised at, I think Starkware raised at like a few billion. Maybe
not gonna
more.
make it. Starkware not gonna make it. No one's ever used it. No one has ever used it.
Insane valuations. And then the other thing was the merge, which essentially moves Ethereum to 100% proof of stake, and combines the current Beacon side chain with the main chain into one chain, which would have that would be extremely bullish if we got to the merge sometime soon, because a lot of the liquidity issues people are having are with the Ethereum Beacon chain, where basically in order to participate in Beacon chain, you have to lock a certain amount of Ethereum in order to run a node, or either these pooled nodes where you can put in a small amount and combine with others. But basically your Ethereum is locked until the merge, when the Beacon chain like it combines with the current layer 1. So like during the bull market, people were all over this, like, oh yeah, I believe in Ethereum for life. I'm just going to lock all my Ethereum on Beacon chain and everything will be fine. And then like bear market hits, that they're out of money, that they need liquidity. All their coins are tied up on Beacon chain, and there's not much they can do about it. This is like the biggest, I think the biggest Beacon chain validator. It's either Coinbase or something called Lido Finance. The way they operate is they issue you a placeholder token called STETH, which represents a deposit onto the Beacon chain. And in general, during the bull market, it almost traded at 1-to-1 with Ethereum, as in you can swap a Lido staked ETH for 1 Ethereum. But now like it's fallen quite off peg, because they're like I think the biggest the biggest position on this was Celsius, right? They deposited their user funds onto Lido and have STETH, and now they're going through bankruptcy, so they have a sort of forced liquidation situation where they're stuck with less Ethereum because it's trading off peg. And I use the term peg loosely. It's not supposed to be pegged. It's a market based on like the demand for the Beacon chain token versus immediate liquidity with Ethereum. So then, like, I think 3 Hours Capital had a similar position in Lido that I don't know if they liquidated yet, or they'll need to liquidate. So it's like this liquidity crunch that's happening right now with all these people that are basically broken in debt is sort of hurting the market overall. So I think maybe if Ethereum merge happens sometimes within, let's say, the next like 6 to 9 months, and like all these like creditors that are owed money to get all that resolved by then maybe we'll have like a new bull run.
So you're saying the only way for us to have another bull run relies on one skinny Russian dude and a unicorn outfit.
Yeah. I actually think he needs to be doing a bit more work, right? Like he's always I saw him commenting about like something the other day that had like nothing to do with Ethereum. Just
you mean his blog post, his enormous blog post talking about how he packs his backpack?
Yeah. That was it.
Fucking put that guy in a basement, like code editor, terminal. That's it. No girlfriends, no boyfriends. I mean, he doesn't have a home gym, but like you cannot cook vegan food. Nothing, bro. Just like get to this. And
he's talking about like his Uniqlo shirts, right? He wears like 10 Uniqlo shirts, and that's all. And
has he considered just the old trick he used back in the day, which is to just have Gavin Wood do everything for him? Could that work again?
I mean, that would work. I think anything that gets us done quicker would be good for all of us.
Just be like, Gavin, you made Ethereum 1 for me. Can you make Ethereum 2 for me? Please.
Yeah, I'm a little busy today.
Yeah, probably Gavin is in another thing right now. So
yeah,
busy.
And, so JMO, the second part was okay. So now you got to how do we get out of this? But I think that was a very good answer. There's so much money. How many % of all Ether is locked up now? It's huge.
I haven't checked recently, but
double
it's
digits.
Quite a bit. Yeah, it's quite a bit.
Huge.
Yeah.
So when these people finally get their money back, they can sell the Ether to buy shitcoins, and then we'll have another boom. But what will the boom be? Like, it's probably not going to be shoes that generate revenue. What do you think?
So I think like the next boom is going to be more like actual applications that people will use on chain versus something that's centralized, and it's sort of happening already. Like the first example is something like DYDX, where you can trade like leveraged perpetuals on chain. You'll be able to like sell puts, sell calls. But by like quarterly, yearly futures, and like all settlement will happen on chain. So essentially, it'd be going after the market share of stuff like BitMEX, FTX, Bybit, like the Binance futures markets, stuff like that. Because there's still very limited options for you to trade those like on chain, where you can like reliably trade them at like low fees, where you don't get destroyed by like either MEV bots or like on transactional fees or like counterparty risk. And then like I think this gaming thing will actually take off at some point. Basically, something I envision is that like right now that the games developed on chain are pretty like low level development. I mean, like obviously you can't compete with something like Blizzard, Activision, or Valve, or something like that with like a starting budget of what they did in like a few months. But I think maybe some of the gaming projects that got funding that are like in stealth right now that require like a few years to build out their games to have something actually functional will capture some market share versus like the revenue generating games like for example, if you can make a metaverse version of World of Warcraft or something, then and there's demand for that, and people want to play an MMORPG online, then that takes quite a bit of a market share away from something like Blizzard, Activision, and onto like this standalone game. So I think like the only limiting factor right now for that for gaming is that the bull market is now, or it was like a year ago. So so product needed to be pushed out immediately. You can't like sit on a computer like in a cave for like 2-3 years, develop a game and roll it out, because who knows what the market would be like then. So that was sort of the beginning of like on-chain gaming, but it sort of brought out a limited and kind of shitty product in terms of like what people associate with blockchain gaming right now. Whereas I think if something is more refined, that's like someone like sits down and spends time developing an actual on-chain game that not only makes sense from a blockchain perspective, but is also like enjoyable, has good graphics, has a lot of like development in it, then that could lead to another boom.
And how are we going to make money on this?
That's a good question. I imagine it will be play to earn, and the great thing about play to earn, as I've learned in the past year, is that you can always buy people to play to earn for you, and generate income based on that. I had some friends. I had some friends that were literally paying like everyone in their immediate family. This is like at the height of the step-in boom. So for those who don't know, step-in is a move to earn game where you just like walk around and you generate coins.
Walk to earn.
And they have their own Ponzi system where you need to buy sneakers, and the sneakers are NFTs, and they heavily incentivize you to reinvest your earnings and to get like better sneakers and to improve your walking returns. So that the Ponzi is like really well done. But I had friends who got like basically like all their immediate family like on this Ponzi, and they essentially like bought enough NFTs so that like everyone in their family could have their own and walk around. And when that wasn't enough, they would like hire people from like Philippines, Bangladesh, like a bunch of like third world countries, like off of some send out the NFT and then have like entire tribes of people like walking around their village all day to generate money from them.
Wow.
So dystopian. I love it. My God, it's like that that city in China where they make all the art, and you see the video of the guy who's got like 100 canvases in front of him, makes the stroke here, then the same stroke on the next canvas, next stroke, and 100 in a row. But like cities of just millions of people in China, some city we've never heard of, and just doing the walking app, children, old people.
They got dedicated paths to step-in.
You go to school.
Step-in loop.
You go to school to educate yourself as a play to earn.
Play to earn.
Play to earner.
Play to earn.
Yeah.
Play to earn.
I'm earning.
Right, I think we'll wrap this one up here. JMO, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. And everyone should definitely go follow him. Definitely go follow. They need to follow you on Twitter if you'll let them in anyway. At CuntyCakes123. You've probably seen it flashing below during the stream. And yeah, thank you to our sponsors, SideShift.ai, for sponsoring this episode. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you later.